Grok 4 is out. Is it smarter? Is it better than ChatGPT's o3 model? There's only one way to find out. We have to test them head to head using the same prompts. Now, I'm going to be using prompts related to English learning because I'm an English teacher and that's what I know. And so I can evaluate better which is better because that's what I know. But I think that can give us an idea about how smart they are compared to each other. All right, so let's try these out. The first, a fairly lightweight task, and this is, I'll do GPT-o3 first and we'll kind of compare. I wanted to see how good of an English grammar lesson I could get. A grammar lesson on conditionals. It has some nuances, it's kind of complex, you have to have examples, right, to kind of intuitively get it. Not just information, but well-explained information to make it clear as an English learner, how can I actually use conditionals, ifs, right? Why if matters. Think of if as a gate. When the gate opens, something else can happen. I think that's a very intuitive explanation. That something else depends on the kind of gate you use. English has 4 main gates called conditionals. And then there's 0, and this is the form, basically how to make it, and 2 very clear examples. I really like these examples. If water reaches 100 degrees Celsius, it boils. If I wake up late, I take the bus. This is the 0 conditional. The form is visually very easy to see, and the examples are using this sort of special formatting that makes it simpler, right? So this is very simple, but that doesn't make it not good. It's very well structured, very clear, very easy to understand. And then this quick comparison summary basically gives me an overview of these to help me remember them. With a few tips, you can swap the clauses. I'll call you if I'm late. Instead of if I'm late, I'll call you. Use a comma only when the if clause comes first. That's a very important point. Easy to mix that up. If you say if at first, then you need the comma. But in this example, I'll call you if I'm late doesn't have a comma because it doesn't start with if. Avoid will immediately after if. Says if it rains, not if it will rain. Yes, that is a very good clarification. And then a challenge assignment. So I would say that's overall pretty solid. Let's see what Grok 4 came up with. Exactly the same prompt. The introduction to conditionals in English. Hello, today we are going to... So this is already very different. It's framing it more like it's talking to me. So with ChatGPT, it's not talking to me. Basically, it's just explaining it clearly. Whereas Grok 4 is taking sort of the teacher explaining something like it's talking, which isn't necessarily worse, but let's see if it's clear. One thing I will say, simplicity sometimes is better than complexity because it's easier to remember, right? Conditionals are sentences that talk about situations that are possible, imaginary, or in the past. They usually start with the word if, or sometimes when, or unless. These sentences help us describe what might happen, what could happen, or what would have happened under certain conditions. Think of conditionals like what if games. Okay, I like that. For example, what if it rains tomorrow? I'll stay home. This shows a possible future situation. So it's still explaining it fairly clearly. So the 0 one, the 0 conditional is the easiest. We use it for things that are always true or facts. It's like saying, this always happens when that happens. Both parts of the sentence are in the present simple tense. Now, visually, maybe it doesn't stick out as much as the ChatGPT one, but it's still clear. And then some examples. Wow, exactly the same example. That's interesting. I wonder how that happened. Intuitive tip, imagine rules of nature or your daily routines. No maybe here, it's certain. Now, when I look at the 0 conditional with ChatGPT, it doesn't as clearly explain that very important point about the 0 conditional. Yes, it does say always true scientific facts, routines, but that's almost not enough to really get the idea, right? Whereas here I'm getting this kind of human explanation. It's like saying this always happens when that happens. Both parts of the sentence are in the present simple tense. We use it for things that are always true or facts. I feel like it's being explained to me rather than having this very minimal statement, which I could easily kind of pass by. So I feel like my understanding is a little deeper from this, right? I mean, they're, I think, both very good, but that is an interesting nuanced difference. And it's interesting that they're approaching this basically challenge differently, even though the prompt is exactly the same. So I think the quality of the response, the explanation is very similar, both very good. For the actual explanation, I think I prefer Grok here, but I like visually how it's laid out with ChatGPT, and I like the clarity of the sections, and I really like this quick comparison summary. But again, both very good. Now, for the next one, what I'm trying to test is how well both can handle a little bit more context, right? They have larger context windows than, for example, Grok 3 or ChatGPT 4.0. So they should be able to handle specific requests with more information. So I found a free version of the lottery online. I just pasted the link, and I'm asking for both of them to pull out language that is, and that includes vocabulary, idioms, right? I specifically said vocabulary expressions and helpful collocations at or above my English level, and I gave B2 as my English level. So what I want to see here is how well does it pull out that information from the link I provided. Are the words given, the idioms, the phrases, the collocations given actually at that level and actually useful, right? And although I didn't ask, is it in context? Does it show the original sentence? Because that would be very helpful. Here's ChatGPT. Below are strong B2 plus words, expressions, and collocations that appear in the lottery. So, profusely, in large amounts. The roses in her garden bloom profusely every summer. So there's an example, but that's not, I don't think, the full example from the text. They aren't necessarily from the lottery. They're just examples to help me learn that particular thing. Reprimand, surveying, reluctantly, jovial, murmur, okay? Paraphernalia, shabbier, splintered, fade off, fussing, all good, okay. And then collocations and phrasal verbs, break into boisterous play, stuff one's pockets with, come forward, draw from the box, okay. Example and meaning, that's laid out really well. I like the table usage. Now, what I asked here was to include the original context from the story. So once I had asked for the original context from the story, I got it. The flowers were blossoming profusely. If I search that in the original story, there it is. There's the sentence, right? So that works after I asked for the original sentence. And you'd want to see the original sentence if you're learning, because the original sentence helps you kind of anchor your understanding of it, right? Oh, this is where I originally found it. This is how it was used. This is what it means. Now I can get a kind of deeper feeling about how I can use it. Okay, then I had another request, but let's look at how Grok did this. Same request here. Here are some words from the story that are at or above B2 level. I've selected ones that might be less familiar to non-native speakers at your level. Similar words here, profusely, boisterous, similar words, right? Reprimands. So I would say, the choices are good. The only thing I will say is, this is something that just generally tends to be true. ChatGPT is pretty good at formatting, and Grok is not so good, right? It's kind of like a wall of words feeling here, right? Although, again, the selection is good. And we have something that the other did not have, which is that it gave the original context without the additional request. In the story, their talk was still of the classroom and the teacher, of books and reprimands, right? So it provided the context without me asking. And that's a natural thing to assume. If you're a teacher trying to teach something, you would want to have the original sentence. I didn't have to ask for that. I just don't like the layout as much as the original layout with ChatGPT. I just feel like this just, I don't know, looks better. It's easier to soak in the information. Although I think Grok did better with which information should be provided. And here are the expressions. Sat uneasily on. In the story, the feeling of liberty sat uneasily on most of them, broke into, looking over their shoulders, clung to, all good stuff. All good, right? And then separating collocations, blossoming profusely, richly green, stuffed, his pockets full. It's a great story if you haven't read it. Definitely do. Now, my request was to take those, not all of them, those words, idioms, vocab from the story that I pulled out and write an original story using them, right? So if a teacher were going to do this or do this as an activity with a student, they would make sure that it's clear which one is being used so that they can easily identify it. So there is that being done. And are the phrases and words being used naturally? So here's the original story. In the heart of a quiet village where flowers were blossoming profusely along the paths. Okay, so we have already one of the phrases. Now notice it's a little short, right? And the words that are used aren't labeled in any way. You could simply label it by making it bold, right? So that's a kind of point against it. Visually, but the usage actually looks pretty good. Let's go inside, Alex whispered, surveying the dark windows for any sign of movement. The others nodded, but little Tim, the youngest, clung to his older sister's hand, his face pale with worry. As they pushed open the creaky door, a murmur of wind echoed through the empty halls, making them all look over their shoulders nervously. Is that a ghost? Tim asked, his voice trembling. Okay, so I don't actually know, because I haven't looked at every single word, if this one has one of the collocations or words or idioms used. And so it would be helpful to have that marked in a way so that I could learn more, let's say, in a more convenient way, right? So here's the story. And notice here, ChatGPT has done a great job visually highlighting or making it bold which things have been used, right? The village fair opened on a June morning when roses climbed the fences and bloomed profusely. Milo stuffed his pockets with glass marbles. So we have the language here, and it's easy to find it. And that is a point, I think, in favor of ChatGPT. Again, this formatting thing and intelligence about people need to see things visually in an intuitive way, right? The interesting thing about this is usually ChatGPT produces writing absolutely loaded with em dashes, more than any human being would ever use in writing. And I only see a few here. So that's nice. Maybe enough users have given feedback to ChatGPT and they've done something about it. Here's one. Here's an em dash, but it's not every 2 sentences like it used to be. So that's encouraging. One thing that's really difficult is to get an accurate score for something like the IELTS or TOEFL. If you give a writing sample or a speaking sample to ChatGPT and say, give me a score, you don't really know if it's very accurate. Even if you have a very accurate prompt, which I have, I can't give this up. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be sharing this because it's kind of top secret. I spent a long time creating this. Anyway, something maybe for the future. But even if you have very accurate prompts with very accurate scoring rubrics, rules, guidelines, if you're using something like 4.0, results might be generally pretty accurate, but vary a lot. And the breakdown is not always as detailed as you want. Now, I haven't tested this specifically with Grok 3, so I'm not quite sure if what we're getting with Grok 4 is better than Grok 3, but we're comparing right now O3 and Grok 4. So what I'm going to do is give this very, very long prompt explaining rules. I want an accurate score on the IELTS, on this IELTS answer, right? I want you to act as a professional IELTS examiner evaluating writing based on IELTS evaluation criteria. So I'm going to then give the rules and explanation and explain a bunch of things that I want, and then I'm going to provide a sample, and I'm going to get a score based on that, right? So we're going to zoom past that very quickly, provide the writing sample, and then look at the score we get. Okay, so your overall IELTS writing score, 7.0, which is pretty much right? It's about a 7, around a 7, or maybe slightly above. So the criteria here, and this is, we won't go over the criteria, but it's basically doing a calculation, and then the breakdown, which is the important thing. And this is all the tasks in the writing section. Task 1, task achievement, 7, coherence and cohesion, lexical resource. Task 2, it's giving 7 for all of these basically, which is about right, so pretty good. Targeted improvement advice, and then it's giving some recommendations, which is again part of the prompt. Basically, why did you give this, and then tell me how I can do it better. Now let's see how Grok handles this. Again, exactly the same prompt. Overall writing band score 7.5. Okay. The overall writing score is calculated by averaging the band scores for task 1, 2, and 3. Okay. So it's kind of explaining and then giving the breakdown. Task 1. This is a general training task 1 requiring a semi-formal letter that describes the conference, explains likes and dislikes, and suggests improvements. Okay, so it's giving very similar scores, band 7, band 7, band 7. Now, for task 2, it looks like the scores on average are higher than what we got with ChatGPT. Let's see what the basis is. The response covers all requirements relevantly and sufficiently, discussing both views and providing a clear opinion. Coherence and cohesion. The message is easy to follow with logical sequencing. Uncommon idiomatic items are skillful with precise meanings. Nice. Grammatical range, also an 8. So between a 7 and an 8, 7 for task 1, 8 for task 2, is 7.5. To reach a higher overall band, focus on enhancing flexibility in vocabulary and structures. And then specific things to do. Increase variety in cohesive devices to avoid mechanical feel. You rely on listing words like firstly, secondly, additionally, and moreover in task 1, which feels formulaic. Vary with alternatives like in addition to this, another area for improvement, or explicit cohesion through pronouns. That's a very interesting point. So good feedback, definitely. Again, I think in terms of accuracy, 7, 7.5, it's in that ballpark, so that's not crazy. It's again this trend of ChatGPT's responses look better, are organized better, and Grok's responses feel a little bit more in-depth, deeper, and maybe more actionable. I wish I could take the sort of structure and order of ChatGPT's responses and kind of combine them with the depth and intuitiveness of Grok's responses. I wish I could kind of put these together. That would be the ultimate, I think. It's just this wall of words feeling with Grok that I've never been particularly crazy about. Now, instead of doing a score, we're doing just feedback. So I want to get feedback on some writing that I've done as a student. So maybe teachers would use something like this as a tool if they're grading students or evaluating students' writing, and they need to help a lot of students and they want to give more depth. They might provide a supplemental feedback report from O3 or Grok 4. And that, using a smarter model means, in theory, better feedback. So here's the writing. We won't read through the whole thing, but, it definitely needs a little help. Specific corrections, original wording, corrected wording. Some people thinking technology makes. Some people think technology makes. Other people think it make our lives. Other people think it makes our lives. Let me talk about both ideas. I will discuss both views. So there we have both corrections and phrasing that's just more natural, right? If I say, let me talk about both ideas, that's not grammatically wrong in any way, but it is a little awkward. And it is more natural to say, I will discuss both views, more formal and appropriate for an essay. Views matches task wording. And that's right. It just sounds better. It sounds more natural. Let me talk about both ideas feels like something you would say, not write, if you're writing something like an essay. So the explanation, the incorrect thing, the correct thing, or the awkward thing and the natural thing, I love the layout, and that is fantastic. Fantastic feedback, right? Fantastic corrections. Section specific, this is which section it is. States both opposing views. Okay, so this is strengths and areas to improve. More general feedback. This is what's good. Provides 3 concrete reasons, okay? Limited development of each reason. Use examples, data, short anecdotes to add depth. That's good feedback. Criteria-specific feedback. Vocabulary and phrases. Uses everyday words correctly, but ranges narrow. Technology allows. Technology helps. Technology gives. Try synonyms such as facilitates, enables. That's interesting. Sentence structure. So there's a really good breakdown. I think this, honestly, this feedback on writing is absolutely fantastic. So let's see what we get with Grok 4. Corrected version. In today's world, some people think that technology makes our lives easier, but others think that it makes our lives more complicated. Now let's see, in the ChatGPT version for the corrected version, how corrected is it? In today's world, some people think technology makes our lives easier, while others believe it makes life more complicated. So this is interesting. It's not just a corrected version, it's a better version. So actually, it would not be responsible for a teacher to give this version from Grok here. In today's world, some people think that technology makes our lives easier, but others think that it makes our lives more complicated. A teacher should never give students a corrected version or a better version that uses that phrasing because it's not that much better. It just fixes incorrect things rather than actually making it overall more natural. Because a teacher would say, well, if you say you use think and think 2 times with the same structure right at the beginning, that's not interesting and it's not a very natural way to write. You need to change the phrasing a bit in the first paragraph especially because you want to engage your reader. So that's the teacher saying, hey, these are things that you did incorrectly, these are wrong, and these are things that you should try to do when you write if you want to write well so that you can engage people, so that you can communicate well. Some people think technology makes our lives easier while others believe it makes life more complicated. I will discuss both views. That's better because there's no repetition of this same exact pattern and it's using 2 different words. It's such a simple thing, but it's pretty clear that here ChatGPT is doing a slightly better job. The opening sentence, in today's world, some people thinking technology makes our lives easier, but other people think it makes life more complicated, has several grammatical issues that affect clarity and correctness. So this is just corrections, I think. The section sets up the topic, but feels abrupt and incomplete. That's a general comment. Okay, so it looks like pretty reasonable feedback. Last, technology gives us access to information should be finally, technology gives us access to information. So these are all just corrections. Again, I'm not crazy about this formatting. Having this nice, juicy table here with the incorrect things is really intuitive and nice. It's easy to sort of get what's wrong. Criteria specific. The vocabulary is basic and repetitive. Okay, words like make, used repetitively, makes our lives easier, complicated. Yeah. Okay, so I mean, fine. Good feedback generally, but number 1, the layout is a little bit wall of words-ish. It's pretty detailed. It's good, I think. Pretty good. But I think I would prefer this just because I can remember more from it. I can get my hands around it a little bit better. I can get my hooks into it and actually, I think, improve. So ChatGPT definitely wins this round. For Grok, I feel like I have to read and read and read, and then I get some ideas, I get some thoughts. With ChatGPT, I think it's easy to glance. I get the idea. I get the main point. Visually discoverable. So that's kind of my thing. For me, just with these tests, it's pretty hard for me to distinguish which intelligent model here, O3 or Grok 4, is smarter. They seem, I don't know, pretty close. It's really hard to tell. Except in a couple of areas, ChatGPT is either more visually intuitive and clear, right? Or a little bit more intuitive in what it's supposed to do. So, for example, when giving writing feedback, not just giving a corrected version, but a better version, because it is a writing teacher, not just a paragraph corrector. Whereas Grok didn't seem to get that bigger picture, let's say, task or project as well. But, for example, explaining conditionals, I feel like Grok was able to get that it's a teacher a little bit better than ChatGPT by explaining in a sort of explainy way, as a teacher would, how conditionals work, whereas ChatGPT laid it out very clearly but didn't explain as much, and I think it could have given a slightly deeper explanation to reinforce the ideas. What is a conditional? So my kind of takeaway is now I'm paying $30 a month for both. I don't know. I might cancel one. We'll see. But it's hard to say. They're both very smart, and you can get a lot done, and they're very productive. I kind of decide which one to use depending on what I'm doing. Or if I want a lot of context and I want a very rich reply and I don't care as much about formatting, I might use Grok. Whereas if I need a large amount of information analyzed and I want quick takeaways and I want to get stuff at a glance really boiled down in a smart way, I might use ChatGPT, right? I might use both for different things, or try both and then eventually gravitate toward one or the other. I'm excited to see what happens with GPT-5 when that comes out. I will definitely be testing that one. Let me know what you think about this head-to-head comparison between Grok 4 and ChatGPT's O3 model. If you haven't done so already, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Get a free course in the links in the description. Check out the 7-day challenge. And of course, check out the 90-day program, the best way to improve your English fluency in 90 days. It takes hard work. It's not necessarily easy. You have to build the habits. But I'm confident that if you go through the whole program, you will succeed. And if you're not happy with your progress, you can get a full refund at the end. Yes, that is correct. And access to me on WhatsApp throughout the entire thing. Pretty good deal. Very good deal. All right, that's in the links in the description. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.